Hello, Guilty Feminists, and welcome to our latest Culture Club episode. Now, this is someone we have had on before. She is an incredible opera singer of colour. She's someone who brings life and light to the opera. She is somebody who makes opera relevant. I was lucky enough to see her in an incredible production of an operetta called The Merry Widow, which is very interesting because she plays the titular Merry Widow, and the Merry Widow is very much in charge of the plot. And this production manages to turn it all on its head. Her name is Danielle, and she's really somebody worth listening to, especially if you're looking for an entry point to opera, or you're somebody who already loves it. A few days after I saw the show, I was lucky enough to have Danielle back on the podcast, live from her dressing room in Glyndebourne, between performances. Here she is now. So, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a whirlwind, The Merry Widow. So it's been like, just lots of shows, lots of craziness, lots of amazing people coming like you. So no, it's a real celebration for me because I've sort of been through a bit of a moment, like health-wise, and so I've come out of that, and to be able to triumph in The Merry Widow and have lots of friends and beloved people come and celebrate the success of the show, it's been great.
Well, I'm pleased that you're well enough to be able to do it. You would never know that you hadn't been well because your performance on stage was glittering, glorious and gorgeous as always.
Thank you.
What made you want to take on The Merry Widow? What was the draw to this particular opera?
So I had actually never thought of The Merry Widow for myself because every time I saw The Merry Widow as a young artist, it was always done by very, very seasoned artists. So that's not to say that they were old in my eyes, but they were older than me. And so possibly they were over 50.
Right.
And in the sort of a different stage of their careers, a sort of, very seasoned stage of their careers. So to be fair to that, what I just said, because I started so young, even in my 30s, I would have been more seasoned having done already 15, 20 years of a career because I started so ridiculously young. I just thought that it was done when you were at a different stage in your career because of the people that I saw perform it. So it was Lyndon Tarantini, it was Opera Australia that really brought the role up for me as an idea. And Joan Sutherland performed the role. And I had a look at the role and I was reading through this story and basically falling like hook, line, and sinker. But I rang up a friend of mine, a writer who used to write with the New York Times, and I said, can you tell me if historically there's anything that says that Hannah and Danielle need to be kind of like older people having one last look, like at the twilight of their lives, having one last look at that one that got away? And he looked around historically and he said, it's absolutely not. Hannah can be young and fresh and absolutely be in the middle of her life, and be looking back at this jilted love story. So I kind of went, okay, well then I'm gonna really look at the score. And I basically read it like I would read a rom-com novel, like a romance novel. It was like a page turner, and I couldn't put the score down. I was just sort of like, oh my God, what happens next? What happens next? And I fell in love with the part that way. I remember I was on a plane and it was amazing. I just thought, I think the story is amazingly modern considering the parameters of the story. A woman with agency who doesn't depend on a man was something, quite revolutionary. So for her to come back in that way, having, been jilted in some way, had her heart broken, but to come back and sort of go, I'm in charge now and I can make decisions with my heart and not with my head, which was not always the case for women historically. They had to make decisions with their head because they had, about like two job options. Like in the case of Bohème, for example, it's like either you're a seamstress or a flower person or you're a whore, So it was difficult, quite difficult for women. And that Hannah comes back and she sort of goes, I'm back, I'm here. And I do love the idea of the one that got away. I think all of us in life have a person that was like maybe a love that didn't work out. And so you can remember that person and think, what would it be like if that person rolled back into town and said, let's pick up where we left off. So I love that as well.
Yes, she's a character with massive agency, isn't she? She's the linchpin of the story because her husband has died. She has this fortune.
Yeah.
This fictitious country is wanting to keep her in the country because they need the money in the country. So
Yeah.
her decision could bankrupt a whole country. So everyone is around her going, will you marry this person? Will you marry this person? And or are you going to leave us? And because it's set in Paris at the embassy of this fictitious country, you get a country that you know and all the joys of seeing Paris and maxims of Paris and that kind of thing. But everybody is focused on what is this woman going to do with this money that she has, with her agency. And as you say, historically, how women married was their best business decision. Yes. And now the question is, how will she remarry? And there's this old flame who turns up, who she did want to marry for love, but couldn't marry for love back in the day. Their great love hadn't worked out. And now he doesn't want to marry her because he doesn't want to be seen to be marrying her for money. And she's like, well...
Yes, it's something I struggle with, actually. He's quite, in this version as well, he's quite caught up in his own honor and his pride. And I think that makes him... I think Danilo he's lost. In this version, he didn't step up to the plate in the past. He didn't step up to his family. I've done a different version of it where he said, I did want to come back to marry you, but you'd gone off. So that's where it's really interesting to take these different decisions that really affect how the story is told. Because I think in this version, she says, no, it was 2 years later. And then we realize, God, she really waited for him. It's really hope that something might turn around. 2 years is a long time for someone to say, I was intending to come back. So it's quite an empty promise that he says, And I think we find Danilo in this particular version quite weak and rather lost at the fact that he didn't end up really doing anything. And he didn't end up really doing anything else either.
The thing is, though, you can't just turn up when somebody's partner's still cold. Do you not need to leave it a little?
No. But in the case of the way that this is written, it's that she waited 2 years before she decided to marry someone else. He says, I was going to come back for you. And she goes, oh, really? I don't think that you were. And he says, and then before I knew it, you were married. And she goes, but it was 2 years later that I married.
Oh, I see.
You abandoned me.
Oh, I see.
And so
yes.
It's really interesting that writing of that is really interesting. And we went through, I was really pinpointing lots of these decisions and going, okay, so we have to be clear that, what are we saying? Because, in a different version, Hannah might have just gone to Volsana the week after she was left, and then she might have become a dancer and been picked up by one of the richest men in Pontevedra, and before he knew it, she was married. Whereas in this case, he's sort of selling it to himself like that, and she's going, I waited 2 years, and then it's absolutely not a case of me Hannah rebounding into the arms of someone else. But and it was fascinating to ask all these questions. Like, what was Mario Sclavari like? Was he a sort of decrepit man in his 90s that she sort of shacked up with, or was he a debonair, man of means, but man of charisma and charm that was absolutely bowled over by Hannah and her beauty and her intelligence and her charm and all of the things that maybe weren't about her class, but were about who she was as a person. So it's really fascinating to set up this rivalry, these two different men that were in Hannah's life. Do you know the thing though that I love that she does pick up, and she moves on. And she marries, and she becomes this wealthy widow, but she's ultimately now really in charge of her own destiny.
And there aren't so many operas like that where the woman is so in charge. I do think women are often in control in operas, and they are in a Machiavellian way behind the scenes, moving all the chess pieces. But she is really in charge in this opera. But sometimes I've talked to men and they've said, women are much better at men at manipulating emotionally manipulating. And I've said to them, why do you think that is? Why are we good at what? I mean, not to stereotype, but, and of course, some women are and some women aren't. But if you see that as a trend, look at the history of the world. If you don't have the power, but you have the ear of the person that has the power, you have to get good at making them feel like it was their idea. And historically, women have not had the power. So what have we got good at? Going, is this a good idea? No, you wouldn't want to do that. And so I'm certainly not saying women are manipulative or women are more manipulative than men or women are good at manipulating or any of those things. But if you see a trend for us to be able to sit there, and it is true that my female friends will go, what do you think this voice note means? What do you think this text means? And what should my move back be? And I don't ever have that from close male friends, certainly not straight
So
ones.
true, Deborah. Oh my God. Like it's so interesting. If someone would say that to me about being emotionally manipulative, I would probably say to them, I'd like to think of it as emotionally articulate, because like
Mm,
I definitely have had experiences, especially in English culture as well, like where like because culturally the idea of expressing yourself is less prevalent somehow
mm.
in an English culture. Like sometimes, so I'm American in England, and sometimes my friends or family or even my husband, they'll like kind of make fun of me. They'll go like, "Oh, Danny just asked somebody how they were, and then he told her everything." Like, and I will say to them, I didn't probe. I literally just was open and said like, "Tell me how things are going," you know? So it's interesting though. Remember when I was coming up as a young artist, some of the anecdotes that I would hear about what made a female artist so intelligent, some of those anecdotes, aside from their musicianship and their artistry, were about how they got around conductors
Mm.
who were men.
Interesting.
So they'd go, she's so fabulous, and one of the things she's really good at, she's so great at working with such and such, fill in the blank, you
Conductor,
know,
yeah.
male conductor. And you're absolutely right. Some of these anecdotes were about the person, like kind of going, oh, I think it's because maybe I can't sing it at that right tempo. Do you think we could maybe
Hmm.
move it along? Whereas perhaps in today's world, they just go,
Too slow.
that's too
Yeah, yeah.
fast for me. Or that's too slow and my voice doesn't work at that tempo. And it's a fascinating balance, because I do think that there is room for diplomacy, and there's room for like getting to know people and working out how best to talk with them, that it has like a mutually positive result for everybody. So I don't think that even if I was operating with today's lens, that I would just go to somebody and go, that doesn't work for me, or I'm just speaking the truth. Like this, I don't like this camera
Mm.
shot, or I don't think that I would. I honestly don't think that I would behave that way. But you're right that men probably talk about that less. I don't think that men have to think about how to speak to people to get a result. They might sometimes, but I think it's a lot less than women. I do. And I think that, the men in my life, they would absolutely be fascinated at that thought process. They think, why are you
Mm.
overthinking that? Why are you thinking, like, why are you looking at that draft of that email? And I'll be going, because I've got to say it in the right way if I want to, that it's
I
fascinating. And
agree.
that's what makes Hannah so renegade. She suddenly comes in and she's the only person on stage who's not afraid to be honest with herself and with others, because she could also have put up a front. She could say, too bad you left me. I'm done with you. And I'm also going to pretend that I don't love you. And instead she kind of goes, what are you doing? Don't you think we could have been given a second chance? Like, can't we fix this? That's amazing. It's more honest than even I could be as a woman, I think. That she could just say, okay, my head tells me this, but my heart still wants him. So
Yes, yes.
I have the power, I have the control of my destiny. I should go and get what I want.
Yes, and she really, really does. And not to spoil the ending, but it is an operetta. It is a happy comedy, and it's very
Yeah.
funny. The direction is great because often I find operas that are meant to be funny, they're funny in that way that you hear people going, ha 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 ha, I get the joke. I'm very intellectual and
Yeah.
clever, and I understand that allusion to 18th century Paris. And this is genuinely funny.
It's Cal McChrystal. He is just such a wonderful director. One of the things that he does is he comes in and he brings so much his own prints to everything. He's a man of comedy. He's a man of theatre. What's wonderful about him, he's so collaborative. But I used to see him in the rehearsal room like this. He would be sitting there and he'd be looking up like this. And I'd think, what's he thinking about? And then he'd go, guys, I've got something that we can make that line work. And he would just come up with something that was either very arch and witty or something like a physical comedy piece. And it's not at all contrived. Like, it's quite organic when he's working, of course, with good actors. When you work with good skilled comedians, they're not really playing funny. They're just being in a ridiculous situation, which other people find funny. Um, no, he's wonderful with doing those. So he had a lot of prints on the dialogue and like working out sort of really just funny gags that you laugh out loud for. And most people who've come to see the opera, they will say, I've never laughed so much in opera
No, me neither.
as I have at that.
He directed The Mighty Boosh, didn't he? And was a director
Yeah.
on One Man, Two Governors. So he really does
Yes,
have an incredible comedy pedigree. And you can really see
Yes.
that coming out, that it is genuinely funny and not ho-ho-ho funny. There's some brilliant
No.
comic performances in it, including yours, but performances
Yes.
that are there entirely to be comic, whereas your performance is there to be musically beautiful
Yes.
and emotional as well. But there are comic roles in this that are just pure comedy, and they really work.
Yeah, Tom Eden,
Oh,
for example. Tom Eden as Niese is absolutely. I mean, he's so wonderful, and he's so, an actor like that. I mean, he's deeply skilled and funny and quite touching as well. And he comes out and he does a little stand up as well at the beginning of the
yes.
acts, which is, you've got to really be smart on your feet to be able to manage
And it's
that.
really good. It's really, really good. It's because, I guess, of the director's pedigree, it doesn't feel end of the pure music hall like that normally would, where you're just groaning. It's genuinely funny. Hello, Guilty Feminist. This is Deborah. I've got a quick few announcements for you. On Monday, the 15th of July, we're back at King's Place with what promises to be an amazing show featuring exclusive previews from some of our favourite Guilty Feminist regulars who are bringing new shows to the Edinburgh Fringe. You can hear from Kate Checker, Zoe Brownstone, Jessica Regan, Alison Spittle and Sarah Barron. And in the second half, Kiri Pritchard McLean and I will be talking to the CEO of the Fostering Network, Sarah Thomas, and the amazing poet Lem Sissay. And then we'll be heading to the Edinburgh Fringe ourselves with 3 shows at the Gilded Balloon on the 12th, 13th and 14th of August. For more information on all these shows and to book tickets, go to guiltyfeminist.com and click on Live Shows. If you want an ad-free version of the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/guiltyfeminist, or you can subscribe via Apple Podcasts or Acast Plus. And if you're enjoying this episode, why not write us a review and give us 5 stars wherever you're listening? It helps other people find the podcast. And now, back to the show. So the story is wonderful. The sets are stunning. The costumes. Every time I see you, I want all of your costumes. Is it that you have had a big hand in your costumes? Because why are they always so beautiful? Do you consult, or do you just work with people who are absolutely beautiful and always draping you in the most extraordinary thing?
It's both. It's both. I've been very lucky to do lots of new productions. And so in an old production, what happens is you've got a costume that has someone else's tag in it because someone else created the show. They'll adjust it for you, but the concepts, the journey of the character is done with somebody else. Whereas when you do new production, and I take particular joy in this because I really love how integral the outer skin of a character is to the inner skin. So when it doesn't feel right, I mean, it's really not right. It's not just like, oh, I've just put on this thing and oh, it's not quite what I would have chosen. Like I couldn't go on stage if I was thinking that I would feel like we missed something, because the whole point is to build the character all the way through to the external skin. And I think costume designers probably quite like me for that, because I'm willing to come in like extra fittings. I'm willing to sort of like I place huge value on it, because it is not just a thing you put on. It is the final skin of my internal character. So very, very crucial to me. And when you do a new show, it means that you're there during the concept um execution. So you're not there to do the concept, because that's their concept. Gary McCann is a complete genius. I don't know. I guess I don't know how he can do both incredible set design and incredible costumes. I mean, and in this show, it's very onerous because all the chorus have different costumes for each act. He then designed color palettes for them to appear in on the stairs, so that it actually had like a color palette of pastels, and then had to like work out which person was going to wear each color that works with their skin tone. I mean, I really don't know how he did that. And he has done all original prints for the costumes. So my costumes are prints that he drew and designed himself, and fabric was
Wow.
printed for it.
Really? The
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
tulips, just absolutely stunning.
They're amazing,
Do
aren't
you?
they? And then I've got this Act 2 culotte thing, which when it's a skirt that has a pant leg in it, which was going to allow me to sort of dance around and do my folk dances. But, one of the reasons that we came up with that was because Beryl, one of the cutters, the maker of the costume, she knew me from the Merry Widow in Australia. And she said, I know Danny is going to move a lot, and she's not gonna be one of those singers who says, "Oh, let's let the dancers do the colo." She'll muck in with everybody, and so if we give her a skirt, we won't see her footwork. So we'll give her a culotte or something, and let's see. And so it's incredibly collaborative, that, and then we had this hilarious thing where um I tore my ACL ligament a week before Merry Widow rehearsals. I was in my studio, and the stool I was standing on to adjust a blind gate, like it turned sideways, and I went straight to the floor.
Yikes.
Um yeah, I was pretty devastated. So like that's why I was feeling like quite triumphant now that I managed to recover in 5 weeks to make Merry Widow. But um hilariously, the culotte had, when we put the culotte on, we sort of went, oh shoot, the wrong leg is covered with a pant leg, because my brace leg was out
Oh,
and my good leg was covered. And we were like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? Gary was like, I'm gonna have to go and print more
oh
fabric. Like, we're gonna
no.
have to like rush to the fabric printers. And so this is the gorgeous adventure
Hmm.
of how we do, like, it really is one of my favorite things, is like doing all those final touches, looking at the hair journey, and the people that we worked with here, Zeb Lalji, Beryl, Gary's team, were just, really up for it. I mean, we had nights when I was coming back from London, and we still needed to finish some things, because my Act 2 costume has a corset, a culotte, a cape that can also be butterflied at the back so that I can folk dance and then let it down as well. And the way that it goes on is this way that like we invented, because we couldn't figure out how to take it off and keep it on at the same time. So but there's nights when they were sort of like having a pizza at 8 o'clock, and I was going, well, my train's a bit delayed, but I'll get there. And we'll just like at 9 o'clock at night sort of doing the last fitting before the
Wow.
pre-dress. And to me, that is where art is. Like, to
Hmm.
me, it's not a 9 to 5. And when you're working with artists who have that same sensibility, you go to the end. It's like a ride or die thing. You just go till the end of the last stitch, the last bow. So I'm really pleased that you like them, because it means so much to all of us, like to have done quite a specific journey to bring that alive.
It must be so much fun and also so much hard work combined, which is my favorite thing, in a collaborative way
Yeah.
with a great team. I think this opera is a great entry point if people are thinking, I'd like to get into opera, but I don't know, will it be inaccessible to me? Will it be dull? Will it be over my head? Will everyone else be sitting there going, oh, yes, very good? And I'll be thinking, oh, I don't really get it. It's in English. It's a really accessible story. As you say, it's something of a rom-com. The music is so
Yeah.
listenable too. And if you just pull up on any app you listen to music on, The Merry Widow, you'll hear it's really charming, lovely, lovely music. And it's a real spectacular as well. It's gorgeous. It's funny. It really moves along. Will you be touring it by any chance?
We are not touring it, but there has been talk of possibly taking it to the West End, which would be, I think,
Yes, please.
an incredible step for a fantastic music theatre piece like this, but also for the idea that this could be the flag bearer of an opera on the West End. As you have just described, you've described everything that I feel about the piece. And all of those reasons are the reasons why I think it could make an incredible
Transfer.
piece of
Yeah.
theatre for everyone to get a look at. And there's no better place for everyone to get a look at it than if it came to London
I
or
really,
to West End. I mean, it
really
would be amazing. And so there's interest, so we'll see
I
what
really, really
happens.
hope it does, because I think it's every bit as entertaining as any musical in the West End. But it is, as I said, a great entry point to opera for those who are interested in cultivating their musical tastes and also engaging with this more archaic art form that we need younger people to get into, or it's going to die. So if you're someone who thinks, I know I could like this is a great place to plug in. And I know Glyndebourne has lots of schemes for under 30s and entry points for you. It's a
Yes.
really good fun day out, Glyndebourne, actually, because it's the most beautiful, beautiful house and grounds. You can take your own picnic. You get to dress up. Some people wear black tie, but you don't have to. The idea is just dress up and
No.
be you. So you get to put on your most fabulous thing. The thing I say is, what in your wardrobe do you never wear, but you think, oh, I wish I could wear that? That's the thing you wear to Glyndebourne.
That's what you wear to
You dig
Glyndebourne.
around in the back and
Yeah,
you go,
literally.
I only wore this once and it's really fabulous, but I feel a bit bold in it. That's the thing you dig out of your cupboard and you wear to Glyndebourne. And you will really, really not regret it. And if you can't make it to Glyndebourne, then it would be a great one to tweet about when's this coming to the West End, because I'd like to see it in the West End. And then hopefully after that, it would get some kind of UK tour, because
That'd be
yeah, because
amazing.
we want to take it
Absolutely amazing.
everywhere as well. We don't just want everyone to have to come to London all the time. So that would be
Sure.
really great. But I do think whether you already love opera or whether you're someone who's looking for an accessible entry point, this is the opera for you. You will not regret it. Nobody could not love it, I don't think. I think anybody.
No, and actually, it's quite shocking how many numbers people realize they already knew. That's the biggest thing, is that when people, the friends of mine who've come, who don't do opera, they kind of went, I had no idea. There was about 6 tunes. I already know it. Like,
Yes.
they've heard them around. It's such a popular
I
piece.
think that's right for most operas, actually. You go to an opera, you think, I know this one. And you hear an aria that you think, oh, I've heard the three
Yeah.
tenors sing this, or I've heard Kiri Tikana was sing
Yeah.
this. I've heard this on the radio. I've heard this in an ad. I think that's very, very common in opera. But this one is particularly listenable too. There are no how do I put this? There are no dull recitative bits where you think, oh, this is dragging a bit. Come on,
No.
come back with the tune at all.
Well, and the thing about Merry Widow is, I feel like you get multiple pieces, because you get a bit of cabaret, you get some what feels like
Hmm.
dinner theatre, you get the funny lightness of the can, and you get all the beautiful choreography of all the dances. So you feel like you have been to a show at Maxime's in Paris. You feel like you've gone to Paris and back, and then I feel you end up staying, like, for the love story. I think the can and all of the other elements in the comedy pull you in. And then I think the thing that really gets you and pulls on you at the end is the final love story that threads all of this together. So it has the opera elements in it as well, but the fact that it feels like a musical to me is the strongest element of the Merry Widow, which is why I think it's done so well.
I absolutely agree. Try and get to Glyndebourne if you can, and if not, let us cross our fingers very tightly. I'm sure it will come to the West End, and there will be a very merry party on the night that it opens, I'm sure, because Danny, you are the most engaging performer and so charming, so wonderful, so watchable. And your voice is that of an angel who had a baby with a bird, a nightingale. Thank you so very much. Is there anywhere else we can see you?
Yes, I'm going to be at King's Place on the 18th of September in the Master Recital series there. So that's a really exciting
Amazing.
London date
Well,
for me.
we often record The Guilty Feminist at King's Place, so lots of our listeners will know where that is and have been there. It's near King's Cross. And you're going to be there on the 18th of September, so get tickets for that ASAP. Thank you so much, Danielle Denise. You have been, as always, a great pleasure.
Such a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
Deborah.
Touring it by any chance?
Excuse me,
Oh
Deborah.
my God, are you okay? I don't want to stop you from.
Just waking up.
Okay.
No. Literally just waking up in the morning.
I couldn't bear it if I've
We
caused
are
you to
not
cancel a
touring it.
performance by overworking your instrument on a podcast.
This production of The Merry Widow will be on for a few more dates at Glyndebourne between now and the 28th of July. So go to glyndebourne.com for tickets. There are deals especially for young people as they're trying to draw more people into the opera. It's an absolutely stunning day out if you can possibly do it, and we will let you know if there's any news of a West End transfer or even a tour.